Hey everyone, it's Pete from Video Film Villages, and today we're going to be talking about mountains in a can, or expanding foam that you can get for your local hardware store, and how you can make those mountains and paint them and everything to put into your village. What you'll notice is that with these bits of wood here, that I've made a platform to be able to put a whole layer of my village on top of, but it isn't essential for actually making the mountains. You can do the expanding foam on whatever you like, to be fair, but this was a good way of putting the decoration on the outside and being able to have something that's actually got some structural strength to be able to put something heavy like the village on the top of. So the expanding foam I'm using is a Sudal expanding foam, and the reason I chose this one is because it's a champagne colour. You can get all different colours that the foam comes in, which is like blues and pinks and things like this, but the champagne colour is a pretty neutral colour, which is really easy, especially if you're not going to prime the foam before you paint it. But this is an easy colour to work with, and as you'll see, we don't really need to be able to prime these, which is good. But you do need to shake the can for quite a while. I think it's about 30 seconds roughly, so that all the solution's mixed up on the inside. And as you can see, I've got polythene down here because it can be pretty messy. The gloves that come with this are essential to use, because if you get this stuck on your hands, it's going to be stuck on there for quite a while. It's really difficult to get off. But see, put the foam down, just not one often, and you'll see that you can basically make whatever shape you want with these. There's no set pattern you need to go, so if you want to go sort of horizontally or vertically, it doesn't really matter. The point is that you just get the foam on there, because in a minute we're going to sort of flip these over and you'll see why. So when applying the expanding foam, I like to work quite slowly, because again, I don't want it to blow and make a mess. So just working my way from top to bottom on this one, and I'm going to do this one in streaks, and then sort of, if there's any need to, I can always plug those gaps, but you kind of want it to look as natural as possible. And obviously really when we're doing the villages, that kind of the more shape there is to an object, the easier it is to add detail, so we can sort of pick out some highlights and stuff and do some dry brushing and what have you in a bit. But it's a really easy process to just layer these down one at a time and just work your way through. So after about 15 minutes, there's a skin that kind of forms over the foam. So when you touch it, it doesn't actually leave any sticky residue onto your gloves. It's actually sort of, it's kind of set, but it's not set, if you see what I mean. And it still be very spongy, because it takes quite a bit of time for it to actually go quite rigid and cure. But as soon as it's got that skin on it, that's when you can then turn it over and apply the other side. And the good thing about when you flip it over, and of course you need the plastic down for this as well, is that the weight of the block that you say put it on this occasion, that helps press the foam down and into the gaps. So it kind of fills out any bits that you may have missed. So you just don't have to cover the whole thing initially with the expanding foam. The gaps will fill themselves under the weight of the mountain that you're making once you turn it over. So now I let the expanding foam dry overnight, so it had a full 24 hours to cure, so it's nice and rigid before actually trying to paint it. What I'm doing here is just taking black acrylic paint, just completely neat, no water added or anything like that, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply that into all the deepest recesses that I want the black to be, so it's like kind of a picture of sort of like darkness, as though it's like a bit of a cave effect, and working that into all the joints here and all of the little gaps, so it really picks up before going over it again with the bigger brush, and just doing a very sort of slap chop job on this to cover the entire mountain as a black coat. But make sure you work the recesses like I'm doing here, so you don't miss any out. So these are our mounting pieces after we've done a black wash on them. As you can see, the recesses are looking really dark and detailed, and it's kind of got a mottledy effect where it's been more absorbent at some parts than others. But you could argue that this would be perfect to display as it is without any further detail, and you haven't had to spend any time doing any etching or scratching like with the foam like you would do if you was carving it. And these have got shapes that you probably wouldn't be able to do if you were carving it or even think about doing it. It just looks really natural. If you're doing a spooky town mountain or for Halloween, you may just want to do a few extra black coats to really darken down the mountain. But if this was a Christmas scene and wanted to do more of a snow-kissed mountain, so we're going to put some lighter shades of grey. We're going to build that colour up by putting in some of the grey with the black and applying another coat to that. So when mixing it, it's not essential to blend it so that the colours are all uniform. Because we kind of want the different colours, I'm just doing a bit of a rough mix with this. So it doesn't matter if it comes out sort of streaky or anything like that. It won't show when you're applying that to the mountain. And unlike the last time we was putting the black on, we don't want to get into all the recesses now because that's going to then take away the colour. So I'm not putting too much paint on the brush. We're just going to pick out some of the higher surfaces by going over that. It's a similar sort of thing with a dry brush, but a lot more paint than you would have if you were dry brushing it. So once that coat's dry, like this is, we're then going to get some, just the light grey on its own, just a very small amount on the brush now, and this is going to be more of a dry brushing process. So you see, you'll sort of wipe off pretty much all the excess that you can, and you're just going to pick out the real high spots on the ridges now, and that's going to really bring out the contrast of the greys. So you're just sweeping over the top, and you can see you're not really trying to get much on the surface as such, just those high spots. So these are our mountains now that all those coats have dried, and it's a brilliant contrast of colour there. It looks really realistic, and if you were trying to carve this out of XPS foam or something like that, I think you'd really struggle to get the proper natural look that these have. And it's so easy to do because it finds its own shape really, like nature does, to be fair. But I think this is great. But there's one little touch to do on top of this to add that little snow-kissed effect to it. So the last step to do now is to apply this white plastic primer. This is perfectly safe to be able to use on foam. It won't eat it and dissolve it like others do. This is absolutely fine to be able to use on the foam. And the good thing about this, it does kind of leave a bit of a powdery texture. This is what we want. So it's like the snow's blown up onto the mountainside there. And we're going to apply it from the top straight down, so that get the top level and anything that's sticking out. So we're just going to blow it across the front of our mountain, and therefore all the recesses will stay the different shades of grey that we painted them, but the most exposed on the outside are actually going to pick up this little extra white glint now. here's our finished mounting. I think the effect that you get from these cans of foam like this is so much better than if you're trying to carve it. You haven't got the universal sort of carving lines that you typically get, because you're kind of going over a repetitive pattern. These are much more natural, and it's so much cheaper than trying to do it out of XPS. These cans of foam are typically less than $10 or about £8, and you get quite a lot of foam in those cans to be able to do these designs. So I hope this was helpful for you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.